This video is going to be a brief introduction to how to write functions in Coral. As before, we will go to the corallanguage.org website, which is this website. We'll go to the simulator. We'll scroll down. We won't need this. Replace that. We're going to put in our own input a bit later. So to write a function, you start with the word function. And it has to be capitalized. It's case sensitive. We're going to call this function square. And what it will do is just simply square the number that is input to it. We'll input a floating point number num. And the function will return a floating point number we are going to call num squared. We will indent 3 spaces. Coral is very fussy. It has to be exactly 3 spaces. 1, 2, 3. And our code is very simple. It's going to be num squared equals num times num. And that is our function. Now, anytime you have a function in Coral, you have to have what they call a main function. And a main function is also used in major programming languages such as C and Java. And it is basically the starting point for your program's execution. So we will do function main, and the word main must be capitalized. Remember, Coral is case sensitive. You also require the parentheses, and there are no parameters, and it returns nothing. It doesn't return anything. Again, we will space over 3, and we will declare a new variable, float x, and we're going to read x in from the input screen. Oops, get next input. And then we will print that out. So we're going to print out the square of x to output. And that should do it. So you'll notice again we have our function square. That's our function name. That's the number that is being passed into it. They call these input parameters. So our parameter is a variable we're calling num of type float, and it's going to return num squared. And down here we're setting num squared equal to num times num. Then we have a main function which doesn't return anything. It simply reads in the number x and then puts it out. And we call basically our function just by writing the word and then the parameter. We don't put the type of the parameter or anything, just the parameter. So let's try floating point number. Let's try squaring 12, and we'll see how that works. First, let's set the execution speed to instant. Might as well. And then we'll enter execution and we'll run it. And it's 144. So that worked. Let's try another example just to prove our case. And let's try a 7 this time. And this time we'll do an integer. We'll see what happens. And you'll notice that it did square it. Again, the output is a floating point number. So that concludes our demonstration of how to write a function in Coral. You write your function, and you do your main function, and you call your function as needed.